Battles of the French Revolution by Bella George. The French Revolution was a chain of battles in the 1700s. It took place in the streets of France. The lower-class people, fired up at the king, became obstinate and Louis XVI placed too many taxes on food and other things. They launched an attack on the noblemen and the king, using many materials as weapons. Below is a description of a few major battles that took place during this time. The Day of the Tiles in 1788 was a battle between the lower class of France and the king's soldiers. The battle began when the king, Louis XVI, pushed taxes on the townspeople of France. The king was already a disfavored figure of France, but the common folk made him even more dislikable. Because of the high tax on necessary foods, like bread, they started a revolt. Soldiers were sent to the site of the battle and managed to drive the disputing mob off the streets. But the clever folk climbed the sides of houses and smaller buildings and hurled the roofing down at the soldiers. In those days, all tiles were made of a hard, reddish terracotta, and they could cause pain if dropped from an elevation. The storming of the Bastille in Paris, France, occurred in July 1789. The fortress and prison, called the Bastille, was dreaded by every French inhabitant, and during this time 7 prisoners were trapped within its slimy walls. Henri Cahilla, a sort of rebel, had recently attacked the Hôtel des Invalides with a group of townspeople, and gathered the weapons and gunpowder stored there. Now they headed toward the Bastille, where 30,000 pounds of gunpowder were stashed currently. The small army of villagers involved around 1,000, all united to bring down the Bastille and the governor who dwelled within. Bernard Launay, the governor, had been bored of the dreadful stink of a home. 2 representatives were sent to his quarters to call the governor to surrender his fortress, but they stayed a long time and the mob became impatient. They charged the castle and fought for many hours. When the guards realized they could not hold out much longer, they opened the gates to the inner court and surrendered. The Bastille had been taken by Cahilla, but 98 attackers had died. Launay was also taken, and he begged to be killed, which the mob did. He was stabbed multiple times, and then his head was sawed off and paraded around the streets on a pike. Today, you can visit the place where the dreaded Bastille once stood and pose by the copper monument located at the site. The eviction of the royal family from Versailles is a great part of the French Revolution. It took place on October 5th, 1789, when a group of women became upset over the soaring price of bread. It cost half a man's salary. Soon, all the market women were riled up, heatedly yelling at each other. They rallied a group and marched to the royal palace. Storming the armory, they took many weapons and demanded bread from the Hôtel de Ville. Soon, the mob consisted of maybe 10,000 men and women. They were led by Stanislas Maillard, who beat a drum as they marched outside the palace. After a gift of bread, the cluster of women left, but many stood stubborn as ever. At 6 o'clock the next morning, a few stragglers discovered a small gate to the palace, unlocked and unguarded. Once inside, they searched frantically for the queen's, Marie Antoinette, a lavish woman in favor of doing what she pleased, chambers. Maria rushed to the king's chambers and barely escaped death's call. After a long time of rampaging about, the group became tired and were driven away by soldiers. The Reign of Terror took place in September 1793 through July 1794. It was a gruesome, bloody time where many masses were executed by guillotine. The guillotine was named after Joseph Guillotine. He designed it to be a humane way of killing someone. The victim would place their neck in a dip, and a heavy, angled metal blade would drop on them, severing head from body. Although it was a terrible scene, many groups gathered to watch the head roll of the stones. Thus the term, head will roll, was created. The last person guillotined in France was Hamida de Janduby on September 10, 1977. The Reign of Terror was to prevent any more rebellions. Once a victim's head had been freed, it was placed on a pike and paraded around town or stuck in a public area where everyone could see it. During these terrible years, George Stanton, a power-hungry leader or rebel, was removed from the committee when it was discovered he had led an uprising against the king. Maximilien Robespierre quickly made his entrance and became the most popular member of the committee. Robespierre soon after was overthrown by a group who wanted more power for the committee, more than he could allow. They charged against him, and when hearing this, Robespierre attempted to commit suicide, but had a poor shot and the bullet only shattered his jaw. The next day, the man was placed in the guillotine. The French Revolution was a long, bloody war, as you can tell. After all was said and done, the revolution ended in 1815. Every Frenchman was glad to hear that peace would reign again as the church bells rang out strongly.